Storytelling Podcast, episode number 63. Welcome to the Storytelling Podcast, where everything's fictional, even you. And now, here are your hosts, two guys and a girl who lie for a living, Garrett, Zach, and Chrissy. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Storytelling Podcast, the podcast that just, its intro gets less and less accurate every single week. The podcast that's all about fiction, and more fiction, and telling the best truths through the medium of lies. I'm your host, Garrett Robinson. With me, as always, faithful co-hosts, Chrissy Moss and Scott Richards. Zach is going to be late tonight. He's going to pop in probably for the second half of the show, but he's got Miami stuff going on, so there you go. How's it going, guys?
Well, the intro was half right.
I know, right?
The two guys and a girl part, yeah.
Exactly. We got it. I don't know why, but I have a back off on recording an intro that says three guys and a girl. Just that phrase immediately brings too many things to mind, and I'm just like, oh.
Just don't mention any cups, and you'll be fine.
Three guys, a girl, and one cup.
Oh, jeez. I'm not going to be there. You're going to have to find a different girl. I haven't even seen that video, and I won't, ever.
Yeah, I haven't either. I will admit, many years ago when it first became big, I tried to find it, but I couldn't find it, and like my Google Foo wasn't very good back then. But I know that you could still find it to this day, but I'm like, no.
I actually came across. I love that this is what we're talking about. Hello, fiction.
Hello.
I actually came across the reaction videos before anything else, and
yeah.
I enjoyed watching those. And then I went and purposely sought out a text description of what it is because I didn't want to see it, but I wanted to know what it is. And once I read it, I was like, nope, I'm good.
Nope.
Nope.
Yeah, that's what I do when I hear about some of those things. I want to know what they are, like blue waffle, but I don't want to see it.
Yeah. So
I'll go look up the description, but nowhere near going anywhere.
I think that we should avoid actually saying the names. Like we can say like the other thing. But no, Tyler Oakley's reaction video. He watched them with. Crap, I don't remember. I think it was Grace Helbig. And for anybody who doesn't know, those are just two really big YouTubers. It's amazing. They're just, oh man, they're so uncomfortable with everything. So the reaction videos are worth watching.
Reaction to anything is just awesome.
Oh, yeah, totally. Crap, I was going to say something. Anyway, you know what I did that with, reading the text description because I didn't want to put myself through it? Maze Runner 2 and 3, true story.
I did that too.
Yeah, I was like, I do
want
to know what happens. Yeah, I do want to know what happens in the rest of this series. I want to know what the conclusion is. I will not read the books because I hate
willing to put in the time.
It was a terrible book.
Oh boy, it was what do you call it?
So I watched SourceFed, and they did SourceFed nerd did a review of the book, and they talked it up so much, and I was like, really? Have you read the same book as I did?
Oh, they liked it?
They liked it. However, they did say it was written for young people, which, if you come at it from the idea that it is written for like grade schoolers, maybe you give a pass for the language and stuff. But if you just come at it as a book, no.
Yeah, I also sort of dislike that. Not that, no, I mean, okay, so like here's a perfect example. The Hobbit is written for children, but it is so many levels, and I'm not just talking about like fanboyism, but I'm talking about quality of writing. It is so many levels above The Maze Runner. And other books that people are like, well, it's written for kids. Like even, like Zach talks all the time about how he doesn't want to write over kids' heads, not in like a, but his book is quality writing. It's really good. I'm like,
I enjoyed it, and I'm an adult.
Exactly. It's like,
at least I pretend to be an adult.
Yeah, we all act like we're adults, but you don't have to write a bad book to make it appropriate for children, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
That is what happens often is that authors tend to almost like talk down to kids, and I think
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons
See,
why like Harry Potter did so well is because it just told a good story for kids, but it didn't talk down to them, and it made it easy for adults to get into it.
Right.
it
Exactly.
also got more complex and told, the story got deeper the more you read into it, I guess. The
Built
grade
on.
level went up.
Right.
See, I remember when I was in school, the books we read was more like The Outsiders and, some John Steinbeck. We read The Grapes of Wrath, things
Yeah.
like that.
Totally.
And those were, I wouldn't say difficult to read, but they had more substance to them than Maze Runner.
Maze Runner. We have a lot of people chiming in the comments already. Quotidian Light says, great topic. I was just thinking about how much of my Buddhism shows in my novel. Can't wait. Thank you, Quotidian Light. Scott Richards.
Goes with our subject.
Yeah, Scott Richards picked tonight's topic. So this is actually, like already on Twitter, I'm seeing people being like, oh, this looks awesome and everything. So clearly Scott just needs to pick all of our topics. Right, Scott?
That's right.
You're welcome.
TBR podcast at TBR is in his house. Patrick, you can't say anything whiter than that. Come on, man. Rachel Davis said, there are some things that shouldn't be found in reference to our earlier discussion about the worst online sex videos that have ever been posted. And Quotidian Light said, is this BOU LOL? No, it's not. And Patrick Stemp said, hey there. Hey, Patrick, on the right
I
account.
haven't said soggy biscuit yet.
Oh, now you ruined it. I said we
There it
shouldn't
is.
say the names. Damn it.
Welcome to the New Cleaner podcast.
Welcome to the New Cleaner. You know, I've been thinking about that, and I'm like, I don't like trying to censor myself. I'm thinking about starting a Let's Play, because I get very little video game time, but I was like, same thing as with Vlog and Novel. It would be so easy while I'm playing video games to just turn my camera on,
Yeah.
and
I've been
Start
thinking
talking
about that
and-
too, mostly because I have 300 games on my Steam account and I need to play them.
right. And it's like that's a good motivation. It's cool. It's something for people to enjoy with you. People can find you newly
Right.
because it's like, oh, you like the same video games that I do, and like on that show, I'm gonna cuss a lot. Like
A lot.
first-person shooters.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's. I mean,
What happens when you miss a shot?
right, exactly. So I did a test episode, and I was just like, but then at the same time, on my I do recognize. I don't know. I think it is kind of appropriate to the audience, but then again, I don't think we have that many like pre-15-year-olds listening to this podcast. Like, why would they?
But that's not who watches Let's Plays. I watch tons of Let's Plays.
See, that's the thing. Like, I think that for this show and for Let's Plays, the audience is totally swearing appropriate. Whereas for my vlog, I don't want to swear. I actively don't, because vlogging is very, very popular from the ages of like 9 and up. So yeah,
Right.
keep it off of there. But on the podcast and the thing, I'm sort of like, fuck it.
Yeah.
Good rule.
Well, the one who had the most problem with it was Zach, because he does children's books.
Yeah, when he pops in, we should well, probably off air we should open up the topic for discussion, because I'm sure the viewers are like, this is fascinating.
Yeah. Love it.
So let's do weekly updates. What's been happening with you guys?
Well, we could ask the audience if they care if we cuss.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you guys have opinions on it either way. I mean, I know all the people in the comments right now,
Don't
Patrick
care.
and Quotidian Light and Rachel. I know they don't care. But if anybody else is watching after the fact, we actually get like a surprising number of views after
Yes.
the fact. Like people come in and like watch afterwards and everything. Like between more than 200 people in most cases. And I'm just like, what are you guys? What's happening? What are you doing here? Hi, it's so good to see you. Why are you here?
Because we're interesting.
I guess it's just.
At least we try.
And also, since the audio still isn't being posted to iTunes, I should take a moment to
Where else
address
is it
that.
You are a terrible person, Garrett.
I am. No, the sad thing is that I want to address it on the show because but the thing is that for the people who care, I can't reach out to them because the people who care are the people who listen to the audio podcast.
You could make an audio, like a short podcast, and
Like
stick
an
it on there as an announcement, like just as an extra bonus.
That's a good thing. That's a good idea.
Thinking.
I'll do a quick. Actually, I'll just do it here, and maybe I'll cut this segment out and do that because that's a very excellent idea. Basically, like what happened for anybody who happens to be watching live, or for people who are listening to this on the audio later, is that as everybody knows, we used to be sponsored, and we were sponsored by Author Marketing Club, and they were paying for the show and then some, and when that stopped, I tried to take over the payment of the hosting and everything like that, and there was basically a kerfuffle right in the middle of me working on a bunch of projects for the SPP guys and getting ready to go to Austin, and a whole bunch of other stuff was happening, and basically my going over the time limit of paying for the hosting went over the time limit, and they Libsyn closed our account, like closed it and deleted all the audio. Yeah. Which is totally my fault. Like, they give you 3 weeks after your first missed payment, but it was just so much was happening that I didn't check my email for 3.5 weeks, and so so all the audio's gone. Like, I have it, but
So you have to re-upload everything?
I have to re-upload everything. So I've started doing that, and for 2 months in a row now, I can upload 5 episodes a month. So I started. So that's more than we need because we only do 4 shows a month, or sometimes 5. But we have extra space. But I made the mistake of starting from the beginning. So like the first 10 episodes of STP are there, but I kind of realized like when the next month rolls around, it should be October 1st. I'm going to do the 5 most recent episodes and work my way back because I think that's going to be more helpful to people. So
it's going to be a little confusing, but yes. It's
going to be a little confusing, and unfortunately the only other solution is to pay Libsyn like $200 and be able to upload everything right then, and then you have to change your monthly subscription so that they don't charge you $200 every month. It's a mess. It's just anyway, so it's effed up. But if you were wondering, that's what's happening, and we're sorting it out, but it's going to be a process. Sorry. Mason Gee said, Scott, what happened to your beard? We need to address that. It is the elephant in the room.
I'm sorry. I was hoping
you should be.
Just slip by because it's like nobody watches this. It's all just audio. But through that tirade, now I know it's not all audio.
You're not getting away with it. You're not getting away with shit.
I can't get away with it. The lady wanted to see what I look like without it, so I was like, for 1 week, I will shave it. And she's like, thank you. And then I shaved it, and then she's like, oh, you look so funny. And then, like, later that day,
she's like, grow it back, isn't she?
I think like it. I think I like you better with it.
And you're like, I did this for you.
Yep. I betrayed my chin.
My boyfriend, he has that great big huge thing, and I have never, ever seen him without a beard.
Yeah.
And I probably never will, but I'm okay with that. He would just probably look so weird without one.
Yeah, I was clean shaven when my wife and I met and got married and everything, and then after a couple of years, basically I worked a job where they were like, we don't want people looking scruffy because you got to deal with customers and yada 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 and everything, and it takes me a long ass time to grow a beard. But after I wasn't working there anymore, I was like, sweetie, I've always wanted to grow a beard. And we met when I was 21. So, and I had been working for that company since I was like 19. And before that, growing a beard was just not an option. So it was like, it was a long time. It was 2008 that I was finally like, hey, and we'd been married it was 2009, and we'd been married 2.5 years, and I was like, I want to grow a beard, and she was like, I don't know about that, and I grew it, and she was like, oh, I like that. I was like, okay, all right.
It can stay.
Good stuff.
Well, I'm actually really glad because I'm dating somebody much younger than me, so I'm like, if he didn't have a beard, he would look really, really young, and that would just, no.
Not good.
No.
Yeah. So we went to Disneyland this week. That was fun.
Ooh, how'd that go?
It was good. It was surprisingly good. With 3 kids, you're expecting like and
Right.
How old are your
screaming.
kids?
Dawn is 4, Luke is 2, and Desmond is 8 months old now. No, 6 months old now. Eesh, he's only
And you
no,
took the
he's 7.
6-month-old?
Yeah,
How'd
yeah.
that work?
It was cool. We couldn't go on any crazy ride. Actually, we did go on some crazy rides. We did the parent swap thing. Theme parks are really smart about that now. You go through the whole line, and then you get to the end, and you got the baby, and you say parent swap, and they're like, cool. And you just go to the other side, and one parent goes with the older kids, and then when they get back around, you just do a quick parent swap. You hand the kid over, and you get in from the other side. It works great.
Oh,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
the only thing being that you can't go on together.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of annoying. But you can go on stuff like Peter Pan's ride and everything like that. But it was crazy. We are not paying for us and the kids because we have to pay for Dawn and Luke and everything. That's not the sort of thing that we can normally do. And a friend of ours randomly had a had a family member who's an employee at Disneyland. And they were like, "Hey, my dad just got some like extra tickets. Does anybody want them?" And we were like, "We'll take them." And they were like, "Cool." It was just one of those things. But we found out on Sunday morning, and it was like, "Cool, but you got to get here by 10 a.m." And we were like, "Ah!" Jump in
Not
the car.
quite enough time to go get a babysitter or anything, but still.
Yeah. But it was awesome. It was a fun day. I highly recommend Disneyland to anybody who goes to Los Angeles. You got to do it.
I went once when I was 7.
And
I only remember. I remember like It's a Small World, and I remember wanting to ride the Dumbo ride and not being allowed to because the line was too long.
wah wah wah.
Oh, and the Haunted Mansion. I remember that.
Oh, the Haunted Mansion. So
That's
much
it.
fun. Any other fun weekly updates?
I am having a sale of my books right now, and that's going very well, so I'm happy about that.
Ooh, what are they selling for? 99 cents?
Yeah, first one's free, and until Saturday, you can get books 2 and 3 for 99 cents each.
That's awesome. So, did you happen to land BookBub?
Not BookBub. I haven't tried for that. I got
He needs
books on
more
sale.
reviews.
That was yesterday.
Oh, I gotcha. Yeah, I am. I'm trying to. What do you do it? I'm trying to get BookBub in November. From November 10th through the 14th, I've got a blog tour going, and I'm going to make Nightblade 99 cents. And
Nice.
what's her name? Oh God, this is terrible. I think it's.
Chrissy, she's right there.
no.
I know, right?
This is embarrassing.
Somebody's
Although I
having
can't get my little bar to show up right here to let everybody know my name.
I'm brain farting right now. You guys know her. She's a listener of the show. It's not.
Tibby and Lights?
No, it's Stacy. It's not Stacy Claflin. It's. Oh God, Kayla Curry. Ah, yes, Kayla Curry. We've had her on the show. She's awesome. She writes paranormal romance, and she has this thing 3 times a year where it's a huge connect authors with bloggers, connect bloggers with authors, and you do blog tours, and there's like a very, very minimal fee. And like you can buy different levels and everything, and different levels get you like guaranteed placement on so many blogs and everything. And
Nice.
she has them 3 times a year, and from November 10th through the 14th, it's for speculative fiction, so sci-fi and fantasy and all that sort of stuff. And then I think in February she has romance, Valentine's Day, and then in the summer she has something else, I think like thrillers and whatnot. So I saw her Google Plus post about it, and I was like, yeah, sign me up. So now I'm scheduled for that 99 cent promo for Nightblade, and I really want to get BookBub. So I did the whole thing of anybody who reviews Nightblade, I'm going to give them Mystic for free. So I'm trying
Haven't you already got 100 reviews on it?
No, I got 100 reviews on the first episode. I want to
Oh.
I want to get BookBub on the first book for 99 cents and really do a huge November push right before Christmas because, I want to.
Christmas.
Yeah, exactly. And
Winter's coming.
I want to sell a lot of these. I really want to sell the physical copies. Like Nightblade is the first book and to some degree on Realm Keepers, because obviously we did the pre-orders and everything like that. But Nightblade, I want people to own the physical copy. Like, I just do. I'm like, I want you to have this. It's so
You
cool.
know, I think it would be awesome if the four of us could get together at one of these conventions and have like a little booth with all our books.
That would be epic. And
That would be awesome.
Where?
And there's like tons of them here that are specifically for science fiction and fantasy.
And you're near Seattle, right?
yeah.
You're not in Seattle.
I'm just on the outskirts of it.
And Scott,
Like,
you're
I could
where?
drive there in 20 minutes.
Right.
Sacramento.
Sacramento? Dude, we should do a tour where Zach comes here and he and I do a road trip up to Seattle. We just pick Scott up on the way.
There you go.
That'd be freaking awesome. Scott, is
You
it
could
like?
do vlogs every day and everything.
Oh, dude, that'd be epic.
Mhm.
Hey, Scott, is
That'd
it
be awesome.
relatively easy if you have advance warning to get away like for a few days?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I have.
If I advance warning, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. My wife is just like, I'm like, sweetie, I'm going to Austin. She's like, okay, cool. I do not deserve my wife. Like, she's just like, okay, yeah, that sounds. Oh man, you're gonna meet Sean finally. That's gonna be awesome.
I'm so jealous
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty awesome.
I mean, I've talked to Sean before, and he's just an awesome person in general. He's so peppy.
He really is. And dude, in person, it's like ridiculous. It's ridiculous. You can't just talk to Sean when you're in person. You have to talk to Sean and Dave because you need a downer. Like you need something to bring you, to keep you evened out.
That's awesome. That's why they get along
Hey,
so well,
look
huh?
who's here. Do you guys see him yet, or is it just me?
I see his picture.
I see his
I
picture.
like this.
He's loading.
Anyway, but it was that was utterly fantastic. By the way,
There he is.
What's up, Zach?
I disagree.
No, I was
Let
just
me
telling.
give you 17 reasons why I disagree with your disagreement.
Zach, I was just telling them that meeting Sean in Austin and everything, he's so peppy, right? And in person, it's just like off the charts. And I was telling them that you can't just hang out with Sean. You have to hang out with Sean and Dave because you need a balancer. You need somebody to go, yeah, but it's all fucked up anyway.
Well, it is, isn't it?
Chrissy, are you our Dave?
I really am. I am like in between. I am very optimistic about a lot of things, but a lot of ththings I'm just the opposite. So.
It's like you're our Johnny, personality-wise, where it's like you see both sides, and you want to recognize that it's okay to be optimistic.
It's called realism.
Right. It's like it's okay to be optimistic, but really everything's very much fucked up.
Just get me talking about government or religion or something. No,
Nope.
don't get me.
Nope.
Don't. No, you don't want me to.
Get me talking about those things. That'd be
Patrick
hard to
Stemp mentioned the Libsyn thing. He said getting caught up with Libsyn sucks. They don't have an archive now option, and et cetera, et cetera. Yes, Patrick knows our pain with Libsyn. And Quotidian Light said, "Oh, that is Scott. I thought it was a teenager or Decoy Scott."
Decoy Scott.
Wait, why? Did you shave?
He shaved.
Oh, you shaved.
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
That's I had
Look at this
quite a
stuff.
mountain man thing going on earlier, so.
And Patrick said something which I
Yeah,
want
but
to.
yours is really light, so we don't notice.
Patrick
Yeah.
said something which I want to address really quick. On a serious note, where's my episode 1 of Mystic monthly subscription? No new content this month, boo. I'm sorry, Patrick. I did fall behind. The first episode of Mystic is almost done, and I'm going to finish that. I'm going to get that out to everybody, and then I'm actually going to do Ninja Bread Man 2. Austin,
You notice how I didn't even message you about that this week. I was
I
just
know.
like, I've accepted it.
I know. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you roll over fetal and just go. I submit. But like Austin was fantastic. I need to do more things like that. But it also really screwed with my production. So anyway.
So you got to go to Austin because you're doing the video blog and stuff, right?
Yeah. Well, more than a video blog, I'm actually making a documentary.
Well, I mean the documentary.
Yeah. So I'm mid doing that, but not. I'm not mid right now. It was really just getting the footage because obviously later when we're like ready to do the documentary, you can't go back and get the footage and everything.
Right.
But it's going to cover
You mean you can't time travel yet?
I know. No, it's the sort of thing where like we don't really know what the documentary is going to be about. We want to say it's a documentary about Fiction Unboxed, but anytime you make a documentary, it's like blah blah thing is happening. Let's go start filming it, and by the time we're ready to release, we'll know what the movie's about. Like that's the way that kind of filmmaking works, because it's like journalism. Like you go there to find the story. You don't go, I'm going to tell a story, because that's messed up.
Yeah, you don't write just the whole thing. You have to find an angle, something to take the audience along.
Exactly, and you don't know what that is until you're right in the middle of it. So, anyway, Zach, do you have weekly updates?
I went to I just got back from a Marlins game, and we won after a losing streak, so I'm happy about that.
Yay!
I have no updates. I've been working on wedding stuff for this entire week.
Well, that's cool.
So,
November,
cool.
What's the date again?
23rd. You guys can, we're registered at Macy's. We're registered at Bed Bath & Beyond. So, all of our listeners.
Is this going to be the new Kickstarter thing?
That's
my wedding.
That's going to be a new thing on SPP. Zach, the registry king.
And then he's going to do a Kickstarter. He's like, we're going to have our first baby. You want a Kickstarter to help us pay for the... And then we're going to all kickstart to get their first new house and everything.
I can use my house.
By that time, he'll be buying a house with Realm Keeper's money. Or
wait, I don't have a PS4 yet. We should do a Kickstarter so I can get a PS4.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay.
Before that,
totally on topic. And
Yeah.
we're staying on topic.
Yes.
Have
We
you
have a
guys seen
topic?
the trailer for Final Fantasy 15?
No.
Yeah. Yeah, I have.
My body's
The Final
ready.
Fantasy games
Take me
lost
now.
me after,
No.
yeah.
Garrett,
it
we've had
lost
this
me,
discussion.
But 15 is going to bring me back. 15 looks
I'll
amazing.
give it a shot. It does look amazing, but it's a game. It's a trailer. Like game trailers,
Right.
game trailers have a bad rap. Movie trailers have like, there's articles about terrible movies with awesome trailers, but it always writes about them as like the exception. It's like,
Right.
dude, we saw this trailer and we thought the movie was going to be awesome. Whereas like you see a gameplay trailer and you're like, that looks really good. Let's hope it's the exception that's actually good. Even it's weird.
I mean, Watch Dogs was a really good example. The graphics were totally different from what was actually in the trailer.
Right, and
They,
it was
like,
supposed to
toned
be a
everything
gameplay
down.
trailer.
Well, they changed the graphics after they made the trailer.
Right, it's like
I think they did that with Batman Arkham Asylum as well.
yeah.
So I saw that trailer and I was like, is this...
Arkham Asylum is a great game.
Okay, no, I saw the trailer and I thought it was real at first.
Oh, well, yeah. But it's like one of the few games made from a movie.
Right.
Movie related. That is actually good.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I haven't played it at all. I just saw the trailer and I was like,
Oh, it's amazing.
That was
I love it.
Chrissy was about to cut you.
But that is definitely a thing where like don't give us a game trailer that only shows a cinematic. I mean, no, that's not true. Like, here's the thing. I feel like back in the 90s, we used to get gameplay trailers that included no footage, and that was fine because we were like, we understand that like gameplay, like footage from Final Fantasy VII. Just you put that on the screen and you're like, what? But you show the cinematics and people are like, oh my god. But the difference is that the game backed that up. Like you play the game and you're like, oh my god, this is incredible. As opposed to like Call of Duty where it's like awesome cinematics and diving through the thing and da-da-da-da-da. And there's a 2-hour story campaign and then lots of online gameplay that looks nothing like what you saw in the trailer.
Garrett and I talked about Final Fantasy VII. I told him I tried it, I didn't like it, and he's like, "What? How can you not like Final Fantasy VII?" I was like, "Dude, I started it, and I was in a building, and I couldn't figure out how to get out of the building for like 3 hours, and then I put it away." And it's like 15 discs. I'm not gonna try to play this game.
X was the only one that I ever came close to actually finishing.
Fun stuff.
I came close to trying.
We've definitely got to get on topic because we've gone longer than I normally like to on all of the normal bullshit.
Who picked the topic this week?
This was Scott. I think this is a great topic.
We threw them in a hat and we drew one.
So I think that means I've got to pick next week's topic because I think we're on a
Yeah.
cycle of me, Zach, Chrissy, Scott, me, Zach, Chrissy, Scott. So, but anyway, yeah. So this week, so Scott, why don't you start us off with your topic? Hey, you
Well,
weren't ready for that, were you? You guys are
See, and this
never
is
ready
the
for that.
problem with doing this is that we actually have
Well-
to start.
no. I didn't sign up for that.
What?
I came up with a topic and then Final Fantasy, and then I'm out. That's it.
Eventually, you'll all learn that if I ask you to pick the topic, you'll pick a topic that you have a strong opinion on.
Dude,
That
I
would
was
be-
ready to talk about mine.
You know, that would be a great format for the
Well,
show. Like when we pick a topic each week, it should be something that we have an opinion on, and we should start with like a 5-minute introduction on something that like maybe people haven't necessarily thought about concerning that topic before, and a couple of examples, and then we get into the general discussion of it.
So what's the topic?
Well, the topic is, for and anybody, of course, who's watching sees it in the YouTube description, but for the audio listeners, the topic is religion, spirituality, and mythology in storytelling, with, I think, a focus on religion, because we've talked about that in world-building episodes before, but we've never specifically talked about that. And that is something that I get a surprising amount of communication about. To a lot of people, is very important in storytelling, like opinions on it, whether to do it or whether to not do it. And to me, few things could be less important. Like, to me, it's just not a theme in my storytelling because.
Right.
But I could see how it could be so important to some people. So what's your view, Scott?
I see a hand.
Okay.
Zach has his
Well,
hand
I
up.
was.
I have a question.
Yes.
I was fixing my mic and I missed what the topic was.
You know what? You know
No.
what? Don't even tell him. Just let him
No,
figure it
we're
out.
not
as we
telling
I'll
you.
figure it out. I'll figure it out. Go ahead.
Figure it out as we talk. So I can't start this. Just kidding. So religion specifically, because I think that creating myths is a little more flexible and not necessarily as hard-boiled linchpin to the plot as religion can be. Religion can play a really big point in your fiction, not just in the world building, but also in plot. I think that to use it simply to use it is kind of a waste, and I think that unless you're just minorly throwing in like dialogue tags and things like that here or there to add flavor to the world, I think really you should only worry about adding religion if it's really going to drive the plot or if it is critical to one or more of the characters and their inner
Right.
conflict with what's going on. Brandon Sanderson does a fantastic job of using religion in his fiction. A really easy read for this would be Elantris. I thought that he did amazingly with that, and it's just seamless and smooth, and it's not just in there to be in there. It actually drives a lot of not only the plot in the main character's little world because he's trapped inside the city, but also what's happening outside of that in the greater nation and everything of what's going on.
That's cool. What was the name of that book again?
Elantris?
Elantris. Okay,
So you're
cool.
saying,
Yeah, it's
so you're
just
saying
it's
you
a
feel that
one-off.
you feel that religion should only be used if it's going to have some major part in the storyline or with a character that's in the storyline.
I will never say what somebody can and can't do or shouldn't do.
For
I
you.
think, in
For
my
you as a writer.
opinion, right. I think that it's kind of a waste of energy to throw it
Yeah.
in there just to throw it in there.
Yeah.
I think that
Yeah.
it's a tool and it's a really powerful one and it should be just treated as such.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was looking over the notes for Realm Keepers 3, and we have a note in there about introduce religion, which we don't know if we're actually going to be using that yet. But the reason I remember Garrett and I talking about it, and the reason why we hadn't done it was because it had no play in the first two books so far.
Right. And it is a sort of a weird thing to just like kind of toss in there in the middle of the series, but we were thinking about a certain race that's going to be introduced. introduced, no spoilers, and we were like, wouldn't it be cool if they were like the first people who, like we saw, that like had an actual religious component to their society? Because like I said, to me, it's not that important. Obviously, for me, the seminal work of fantasy, well, for anybody, the seminal work of fantasy is The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings.
For anyone.
Well, no, but I mean, but it is, whether it's your favorite or not, it's like it's the, friggin' Bible. And some people really don't like the Bible, and some people really don't like Lord of the Rings. And those people, I respect those people's right to, have an incorrect opinion. But,
if you don't like the Bible, then you don't like Lord of the Rings, is what you're saying.
Sure. But,
Is it sad that I've read more of the Bible than I have the Lord of the Rings?
yes, it is. It's very sad.
I think it's sad. It's sad. Same with me. Same with me.
God damn it! I'm surrounded by heathens. But no.
Well, one is really long-winded and dry, and then the other one is the Bible.
That's right.
You're all off the podcast. You're all gone. You're all fired.
They both have murder and rape and all that other good stuff.
No, they
And
don't.
There's no rape in the one. There's murder.
No, there isn't. There isn't murder in the Lord of the Rings. There
Do
is
people die
battle.
in Lord of the Rings?
Yes.
That's murder.
No, it's not.
It's a murder.
Oh God, we need to get off of this.
All
But
Are you saying
the
orcs aren't
point-
people?
The point is that
Orcs aren't people.
the point is that there is no religious component to The Hobbit or The Lord of the Rings. I mean, there's some.
It was based on Norse mythology.
You haven't read it. You don't
Yeah,
get an
Chrissy,
opinion
you
in
don't
this
wanna
fight,
go into this
Chrissy.
with Derek.
I've read about it.
Yes, you have, but there's a
Well,
difference. There's
I
a
think
Don't
that
they,
being
they have
based-
religious aspects in the book?
no.
Really? I thought they
No,
did for
there's
some
no,
reason.
there's no,
No.
there's no praying. There's no. See,
There's ghosts.
There are ghosts, but
But it was influenced by mythology.
it was influenced by mythology. But like Beowulf doesn't
Right.
have religion in it. It doesn't have mythology in it. It is mythology. You get what I mean? Like that's the
Right.
difference. The Bible doesn't have
mythology
Christianity
is
in it.
Somebody's
Say again?
religion.
Say again?
A lot of mythology used to be somebody's religion. Just because it isn't our religion or isn't,
No. But
common practice religion
like,
now.
you get the point. Mythology doesn't have mythology in it.
Right.
Is
It just
mythology. Right.
Yeah.
Like the Bible doesn't have Christianity in it. It is Christian. It's the foundation for Christianity. I guess it kind of has Christianity in it. Although no, it really doesn't.
Probably
because
just a little bit.
Yeah, no, but like it doesn't have like the Pope or the Catholic Church. It has Jesus.
If you ask Catholics, they would say it does.
I guess.
They,
I don't know.
I haven't read enough of it, just like I haven't read enough of
You probably don't want to go down this rabbit hole because I've studied way too much religious theology.
See,
But-
now,
It's the
this
difference
is
between
actually
having.
good.
I mean, it has religion in it clearly, but it doesn't have organized religion. And like mythology has mythos in
It
it.
kind of does, but okay.
I am Spartacus.
The whole Book of Acts is about the organization of Book of Acts and Romans is both the organization of the church.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And of course, those aren't the books that are most commonly quoted and everything, because nobody
Right.
wants to say, "There shall be 15 cardinals," said the Lord. You know, it's like it's way more.
Well, what about
impressive.
Moses? Moses came down from God and said, "Here's these commandments." And
Yeah,
we're gonna
that's
be
a good
organized
point.
in doing
Okay,
these."
so clearly the Bible is a bad example in this case.
Yes.
But the point is that the Lord of the Rings didn't really have religion or even mythology. There is a mythology to the world, but
Right.
it's only alluded to once or twice, and it's not a driving factor of the plot at all.
But
Yeah.
but we're talking about adding, not the making a religion of your own, but also incorporating like images and such from religions into our books, right?
Well, either that. There's creating your own religion for your book, like D&D style, where there's like the Church of
Right.
Baldor.
I did that for my book.
Think Cuthbert.
That was a joke for Zach. We used to have a cleric. We used to have a cleric in our D&D party, and nobody ever wanted to play the fucking cleric. So the dungeon master always had to play the cleric for the group, which is just so dumb. And
He
whenever
always took his money.
Yeah, he was always like, "This is grave robbing," and the rogue was always like, "All right, I'll take his." um,
Now I have a question. I feel like there are religious aspects in Lord of the Rings, at least the movies. Like I feel like not saying this is a religion, but saying like the feeling of a religious setup where you have a group of individuals who have some higher power or whatever.
Well,
Is that not the case? I feel.
I would think the question is, what is religion? Because you have like more organized religions like Christianity or Islam or things like that, and then you have other ones that are like paganism, which is being
More
in
of a-
touch with. It's more like being in touch with the nature and.
I got it. Yeah, that's true.
but honestly, like Lord of the Rings doesn't really have too much of either one of those. Like, there's only
It's
a
not like Pocahontas, like every tree and rock
But
has
not
a
even
name.
that. Like that's a thing that people put an interpretation of in Lord of the Rings, but the elves are never like are never like our spirits join with the trees. They are like the orcs are chopping down our trees, and that's very evil. But that could just as easily be environmentalism. It's not any kind of religion, or even
Especially since the trees talk.
Especially the ants.
exactly.
Yep.
It's like those they're just dudes. Like it's not
That's
it's not
interesting.
a big thing. So my point in saying all of that and going into all of that is that like I don't think it's necessary for every story because clearly it's not
Right.
necessary for my favorite story, but it is a big part of my second favorite story of all time, which is Star Wars, which is one of my favorite incorporations of religion and spirituality into storytelling because it's not they don't try to answer all the questions about what is the Force. They just it's just there, and it's
You're
a
talking
saying
about
that's a religious
the
movement?
original
The
three,
original.
right?
Yeah,
yes.
because they do ruin that in the prequels.
Right.
The what?
The
The
prequels.
prequels with
They-
the little
they made it more
nano.
secular.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, nope.
You're talking about the
um,
new ones that J.J. Abrams is doing. No, those are sequels. Those are after.
Yeah.
Those come after.
Those
Yeah,
are
we haven't seen
sequels,
those
and those
yet.
are coming out. Yep. We don't know anything that have. Yeah. Nope. You know what? I spaced out. I don't know what I was talking about just then. Never mind.
So
Hobbits.
you're saying that the Force or the Jedi are a religious movement?
It's more of a
were-
I mean, they actually are. It's referred to
It
in
was
the
a religion.
movie. Yeah, it's referred to in the movie as a religion.
Really?
And some people are more. Grand Moff Tarkin, or no, not Moff Tarkin. One of the
one?
Grand Moffs says to Darth Vader, he's like, "Your ancient religion holds no terror for me." And then Darth Vader starts force choking him, and it's like, "Bitch."
Well,
which
plus
which
the line
movie
is,
was
"I
that, do you remember?
find your lack of faith disturbing." So.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that was in episode 4. So it's actually.
I'm gonna go watch this again.
Well, there's also the idea that someone, it's like high enough science looks like magic to us. So whatever Darth Vader was doing would look like a religion because nobody understood the Force except for the people in the Jedi. So it could have looked like a religion to those who were outside of it.
Well, but it
was an overall understood that the Force is the Force and the Force is.
Right.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, you could say that like the technology of how to use your mind to access the Force is a technology, but that's like saying that like meditating to achieve nirvana is a technology. It's really like maybe it is. Maybe one way they will discover, oh, these guys achieved nirvana because of blah, if they did or whatever.
They couldn't have, but okay.
Right, but I'm saying is like that's religion. That's not. You can't say that's technology. You can't say that's advanced sufficiently technology. Right? Am I wrong about that?
No, that's true. Because also one thing you have to keep in mind too is that, and I'm saying this as a fan, as an uber fan of Star Wars, but just bear with me. George Lucas is a terrible writer. He's awful.
It really is.
He really is. And he had no idea where he was going with any of this. He made the first movie with like the contributions of 20 other people throwing in on this.
Right.
And so it was just like, yeah, and then there's the Force, and it's this whole ancient religion and whatever. And he's like, Darth Vader's like the evil guy. And then they go and they make the second one, and it gets deeper, and then he makes the third one, it gets deeper, and then all of a sudden it explodes in the extended universe where they start breaking it down even more, and then by the time he went back and made those movies that will not be named, then he all of a sudden didn't have the contribution of people that mattered, and it
Right.
was just him writing it, and that's why they sucked such major ass. And it was just, and then he went in to try to explain it, but just ended up ruining everything, because now with his pathetic explanation, stuff doesn't make sense. So
Exactly. It's like if you try to, you at some point, I truly believe this in all fantasy. All fantasy. At some point, you have to go, it's magic, motherfuckers! Like, you can't explain everything.
Well, it's like
No,
Hugh Howey says.
Right.
When he says, if you're in that world, you don't need to be explained to why that thing works. You just do. It just is. It's just part of your world. And
It
so
just
when
does, yeah.
you, as the author, start over-explaining it, it takes away some of the mystery and the wonder of that world.
exactly.
Yeah.
So do we know the name of the religion in the Star Wars? It's not the Jedi, is it?
Yeah,
It's
The
Jedi.
Force.
It is.
It's also
It's the Force.
a religion in Australia, if you want to.
No, it's actually a legally recognized religion
It is.
in America.
Oh, is
Yeah.
it now?
You can get married in a Jedi ceremony, and they have to legally do
So
the
is
thing.
Dudism.
That's amazing.
Yep.
I would prefer Dudism, but
Um,
The light side of the Force and the dark side of the Force would be two separate religions based on the same.
Also,
At least.
when
anyway.
when people try and explain, like when you try to explain the okay, so I'm gonna mention something that just really gets my gander up. So I'm just
gonna
trying
be
to say, like, don't
infuriated by
provoke
it.
me on this because we'll talk about it for the
Okay.
whole rest of the episode. Midichlorians.
Right. No, exactly. That's what I'm
When
talking about.
When you get into, and for anybody who doesn't know, midichlorians are supposedly these little particles that are in people's blood, and when you have a lot of midichlorians, you're strong with the Force. That's the supposed explanation. It
Right.
feels like a little boy sitting on the playground, and the jocks, the cool kids and whatever, are going, dude, yeah, but the Force is fake. Nuh-uh, because there's these particles in the blood, and the thing, and you're strong with the Force. And that's fine in an actual science setting and the thing. But the problem is that they're not actually real. So your explanation doesn't help anything.
The other thing is that it completely takes away the faith-based and turns it into scientific-based, which is just not fun.
Exactly.
I mean,
And
it can be fun. All science, like science movies that are like strictly hard science fiction, as it's called, those can be fun. But it's
Right.
like,
But that's
I'm
not
talking
what
about something
this
that's
was.
already
Exactly.
faith-based.
right.
Something that's already faith-based, which is successful, and then turning it
Right.
into, it's like, why?
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
We should read the comment from Quotidian Light.
Let me pull it up here. Thank you, Google, for not giving me the actual comments that people are leaving. You fuckers. Quotidian Light says, for me, religion or spirituality is or has been a core part of all societies, so books that completely omit any spiritual nod always fall a little flat to me. Even if it's part of character building, their spirituality affects how they curse, their values, etc. Remind me to talk about curses. That's a thing I've got to speak my mind on. Even if spirituality isn't a major part of the plot, it is often a helpful thing to think out when building characters, as even a lack of religion tells about character and should be thought through. Okay, first of all, cursing. Cursing can be good, but it can also be massively overdone. What do we say?
Groundkeepers.
Yeah, but what do we say when we curse in real life? We say things like Jesus Christ or God damn it. We don't say by Christ's holy blood on the sacrament. And conversely, in fantasy series, nobody in the middle of a battle scene is going to go by Fereldar's sacred shorts. Like, no! You don't say that as an exclamation of dismay. You say that as part of an incantation. Sure, you dribble the holy water and you say, by the almighty power of O, the heavenly God. Yes, but in the middle of a fight or when a chair falls on your toe, you go, Christ, or God damn it, or something
Baldor!
like that.
You've just offended half our listeners.
What?
Since you've just offended half our listeners.
No, I hate that though in fantasy. Like it's one of
Weird.
now that's a thing that I've got to say is a personal opinion, but it is I am so adamant about it. I'm just
Another
like
one for me that really annoys the hell out of me.
uh-huh.
Using our curse words for a completely different setting.
Oh, I don't mind that at all.
It depends on the word. I mean,
Like what?
you wouldn't if you're in, say, Xanth or Pern or something. You're not going to say Christ,
Right,
Because they don't have it.
But they do it so well in Game of Thrones, the show.
Right.
And they do it in the books, but the show is HBO, so they amp it up a lot. And
Right.
and in that world, the way that they designed everything, well, I won't list them all here, but all of the words that they say feel like part of it because they
Right.
don't. They also don't say "God damn it," which
Uh-huh.
would feel weird there because
Right.
but which God?
They have the different religions. Yeah.
Which
Exactly. It's like, God damn it, which one? Which who? What? But
Well,
like when they say the F word and the C word and the male version of the C word, that's not really anyway. Like all those things, it works. It totally
Right.
feels integral. But you're right. Like that in the middle of what do you call it? Like Lord of the Rings would just be like, what?
Right.
What did you just say? So
Right.
Well, that's again one of those things where it's not one size fits all. You've got to make sure you understand the world that you're building.
yeah.
Try to apply things that you feel fit there.
Yeah.
So
Totally.
Yeah, and I think in Realm Keepers we were looking at having multiple gods, and so when we would have curses, it would be to gods, not God. But I think we were running into a Battlestar Galactica type of thing going on.
With the frack.
Well, we had that too. Yeah, we were gonna. I nixed that out really early.
Well, no, but we had it. Remember,
Right,
like
right.
Zach was like, okay, you can have one frack per book. So Calvin says frack, but he only
But
says
Calvin
it,
is a nerd, so of course
Yeah,
he would say
and
it.
it makes sense. And he says it
Right.
once in Midrealm, and he says it once in Wormspire, and he's gonna say it once again in the next one.
It makes sense.
But
You know what's funny?
when we have the Rune Guard, when they curse, they are going to be referencing gods instead of God.
Right.
And when we were looking at that, I think that came about with Battlestar Galactica because in Battlestar Galactica they say gods as well. It's plural.
Right. Yeah.
So another thing about religion is it can change. So I have a series of books that is scheduled to be 10 books or so, and it goes over centuries for my world. And so the beginning book starts with kind of a monotheistic sort. And as it goes through, the god disappears from the world or isn't, walking among the people anymore. So the religions break off into different sections, and so it expands and diversifies. And I think every part of a book needs to evolve, especially if you're going over long periods, including the religion, if there is one.
Definitely.
Yeah,
That's a
for
good
sure.
point.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? We've got we're going to introduce that element in Realm Keepers, and similarly, there's actually two. Well, there's a few new characters coming out in Mystic, and one of them is going to be more like spiritual person. There isn't really. I haven't decided to put I actually haven't decided whether or not to put an organized religion in this world. There definitely isn't one in like where they start out. It's not big, but there's like 9 kingdoms, and some of them are fucking far off away. So I'm thinking that there could be some in like some of the far distant kingdoms that like actually hold some sway and whatever. But
we also have. Sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Well, no, riding that fine line between like religion and spirituality is another like interesting thing because you can have guys that are very spiritual, but who think like the idea of a god is ridiculous. And
Right.
what comes to mind for me, because I've been watching a lot of it with Megan, is Supernatural. Like for the whole first 3 seasons, it's them and ghosts and demons and hell and all that sort of thing. And they're like, yeah, totally, ghosts. We've lived with this our whole life. Demons and da-da-da-da. And then fucking angels show up. And
Right.
they're like, and at first they're like, no, there's no such thing as angels. There's no such thing as God. And it's like, dude, look at you don't have the right to say, yeah, you don't get to say there's no such thing as because of
Spoilers much?
We also in Ninja Bread Man 2 start to actually dive into that as well.
Yeah.
Because there's some new characters that are new aspects of characters that are shown. And I remember one line, I don't know if Garrett kept it in there, but there's a point where Charlie, the Ninja Bread Man, goes, "Oh, I always thought that we came from dust, and when we died, we went back to dust."
Right.
You know, because they don't bleed, they're made of fairy dust. But you know, so it's like from dust we came, to dust we go, or something like that. So we start going into that as well in a fairy tale setting.
That's so weird. We're going deeper in Ninja Bread Man 2 than we've gone in Realm Keepers so far.
No. It's
You know
good
what?
though. I think it's a great twist for Ninja Bread Man 2.
You know what's going to be really interesting in Realm Keepers is exploring the aspect of, okay, well, but like, if we find out that one of the characters, oh no, dude, we did have a little little religious nod. Remember when Fur died and Miles said a thing, like he said a prayer.
Oh yeah, he did say a prayer.
And everybody was like really surprised. So a
Yeah.
really interesting thing to explore is going to be like if they've got a different religion and whatever. It's like the whole idea of like, okay, so Miles is Catholic, but like which is there another god in Midrealm? Is the one over both of them? How does that whole thing work? Oh, that's going to be fun to explore.
That's an interesting aspect. You need to note that down. So we don't
I will
forget.
not remember.
But yeah, but then we also have like Nora. I feel is going to be the most. She
Yeah.
seems to be the most out of the Rune Guard to be religious.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Kara definitely not.
She doesn't give a crap. Yeah.
Mason G, he said, a religion is still a religion, even if it's exposed as false. The only
God.
primary requirement is believers, not truth.
I wasn't going to touch that one because
I actually, well, see, this actually kind of fits in with the novel I've been writing. Because the novel centers around their fight with the acolytes, who have a false religion. They suppress the countryside by using this great beast to do their bidding and keep the populace under their control. And so it's a religion, but it's a false religion, and they're trying to overrule
So you mean it's false because they're claiming that there's this evil ghost plaguing or
No, there is one. It's just all magic.
right, but they're saying it's like it's Satan and he says you're sinful and he's punishing you when
Sort
really they're just generally,
Yeah,
but they're
generally.
creating this thing that
Right.
they are then claiming is something else. Oh, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
And that's very, very true. Obviously, in terms of the real world and in terms of I think most religious scenarios in fiction, the really difficult part of that question is what is truth? And of course, you know,
Right.
that's a whole thing. And I've talked about that where there's a difference between fact and truth sometimes, because you can know that something is true for yourself but not be able to prove it, and therefore it cannot be a fact. And that's fine as long as you don't try to enforce what you know to be the truth on anybody else. Because the second you start to do that, you got to have facts to back it up. And that was my whole thing on like religion, because people debate one way or another on that, and it's like, well, whatever you know to be true
it's a
for
faith.
yourself. Yeah, exactly. It's a faith-based thing. But like sometimes it's not even a faith-based thing. Some people have religious experience where they're like, God talked to me, and I'm like, dude, cool.
I'm saying they have faith in that aspect, not
Right.
like they have faith that something is there, but they have faith. I know this is real because God spoke to me.
Right,
Or
like,
this,
but
whatever.
to me, this is so interesting. Faith is belief without proof, and knowledge is belief with proof. But fact is belief that can be proven universally. Not even belief at that point. Fact is
just is.
Fact
Fact
is
just
no.
is.
Fact
It
is
exists.
exists regardless of your belief.
Right.
right.
Like,
Exactly.
Like climate change is a thing, even though a lot of people don't want to believe it.
Right. Although
Right, but
I-
someone that comes up to you and says, no, your religion is not correct because you can't prove it to me doesn't mean that your religion is not a religion.
Exactly.
Right.
Because you can still have
And-
faith in it.
and the
So what you
analogy-
believe is true.
The analogy I always make on that is that, like, let's say, well, this actually happened this morning. I drank a Monster Energy drink, and
I don't believe in you.
Right, exactly. Like, I drank it, I threw away the can, and the garbage truck came and picked it up. So I have no way to prove to you that that's true. So you can't really say it's a fact, but it's true. I know it happened, and nothing that you, like, because of my own personal integrity, nothing that you could say would really convince me that it didn't. So that's
Right.
fine. And like for somebody like that, like if somebody's like, yeah, no, I had like a religious experience, or I saw a ghost, or I, achieved enlightenment or whatever, I'm like, cool.
Yeah.
But if they then go, and so you need to do this thing, then I'm like, well,
Yeah. If they say you're
What?
wrong, you have
Right.
to do what I'm doing. So-
right? It's like, well, why don't you prove to me that happened? Well, you can't prove it. Well, then I'm just gonna hang out right over here.
Drink
I'm
another
dead.
monster.
Yeah.
But and going on in the other direction, semantically, I don't think and this is really getting semantic, but truth is truth. Like, to me, a fact isn't something. It isn't like the statement that a fact is real, whether you believe it or not. Well, that's true. But if something is true, but we haven't discovered it yet, like in the future we discover warp drive technology and we discover some fact that unlocks that, I don't consider that a fact yet. You get what I mean? If we haven't discovered it and we don't know it, for us it's not a fact. It might be true. It might be scientifically true and can be proven, but until we know that, can we really consider that a fact? We're getting real philosophical.
I think it's a future.
I would say
It's a fact for the the people in the future. It's not a fact for us now because
I would say that
there's no reality on it.
It's undiscovered. That's all.
An
It's still a
undiscovered
fact.
truth?
Undiscovered fact.
Yeah.
It's still a fact because it still exists. It
Well,
doesn't matter if we've
But
discovered
how
it
do you
or
know?
not.
But you don't know it's actually there because it's undiscovered.
Well,
So-
no, that's true, but it's see, and that's my thing is, like, to me, a fact is something that I can prove to anybody, like the fact that I am wearing a blue shirt right now. I can prove that to anybody who asks.
Yeah.
But the fact that I saw or the occurrence that I saw somebody walking by on my street last night who was wearing a do-rag, can't prove it. Sorry,
So Einstein discovered the theory of relativity years before it could ever be proven.
Right.
But they were able to prove it through math.
Right.
So there were proofs, lots of proofs, all written out that it was a fact, and this is, but it took them a very long time before they were actually able to prove it.
Right.
It didn't change the fact that it existed and it was real.
Right. So that's where we get into, like, truth versus fact. And
Well,
I'm
it's
sort of
kind of like, let's say it's along the lines of, like, there's a diamond in the ground,
uh-huh.
and you don't know it's there, but
Uh-huh.
regardless as to whether you know it's there or not, it exists.
It's still there, right?
That's how I see it. It's a fact. It exists. You may not know it's there, but it's still there.
Right.
And then if you start digging, well, now you're digging. You're like, oh, there's nothing here. This is nothing but dirt.
Right.
And eventually you dig down deep enough, you're like, oh, look, a diamond. The diamond was always there.
Right.
You didn't have to be aware of it for it to be a fact. It still existed. It was still present. It's always been present long
Right.
before you were ever around. It's
Just because you don't know
there
it's
it is.
there, it doesn't mean
It's
not
really
there.
the tree falling in the woods theory.
Right. Exactly. Did it make noise? We'll never know. But it did.
But it did.
Well, is it better Schrodinger's cat?
Well,
The cat in the box, is it alive or dead?
right. Exactly.
See,
So that
Now,
that
here's the
semantic difference is honestly only going to make a difference, like, if it's really pertinent to the discussion, and it's not necessary. Like, you don't need to worry about that stuff generally for your thing. But I really like and would love to toy with the idea of somebody who has a religious experience, like, basically has a religious experience, a god comes and talks to them in a world where the gods have been forgotten or abandoned or nobody believes in them anymore. And because of what they learn from this person, kind of like in
That's
A
the
Wise
lightning
Man's
thief.
Fear. Sorry?
That's Percy Jackson. Percy Jackson, you got the gods show up and he's
Kinda, yeah.
like, wait, what?
Yeah, but then
Greek gods?
he's introduced to this whole society where everybody's like, yeah, that's a thing. But like one person who has this experience, this revelation or whatever, and then goes about. I mean, it's kind of like, what did I just say? It was kind of like. Anyway, and then that person goes along and becomes incredibly powerful, or is able to do things, or knows things because of this experience they had with this person, and everybody's like, how are you able to do that? How did you... Oh, The Wise Man's Fear. Chrissy Scott, have you read that book? The second Patrick Rothfuss book?
Oh, why aren't you asking me?
I know.
Your opinion doesn't matter.
No, because I know Zach hasn't read it. Yeah.
I haven't read it.
So the main character finds this fae goddess who's like been talked about in stories after older than time, but everybody's like, well, but that's a campfire story and everything. And he goes with her and he lives in the spirit world for like 8 months that are only like a couple of days in the real world and everything. And then he comes back with a couple of magical gifts that she's given him and all this knowledge and wisdom and experience and everything. And everybody's like, how do you know? Where did you get that thing? How do you know all this stuff? And he's like, well, I spent 8 months with Feluvian. And they're like, no, but that's fake. That's a story time. And he's like, what?
And he turns out to be a crazy guy in the street corner yelling at people.
Exactly. Feluvian is real. But that's the thing, is that I would love to turn the focus on like, no, but where did you actually get this stuff? And it's like, I'm telling you, but nobody will believe him. But he's not going around trying to convince everybody. He just has a tremendous advantage in whatever he is trying to do. It's a very interesting little dynamic.
Yeah, I'd like to see something like that in the Dream Engine series, in the world.
Yeah,
like religion and how it's changed and how the different groups are the different religions and how they interact as well.
Yeah.
Because that's something I feel in books is that, I mean, in real life you have religions, and then some religions. I've met some people who are very open and will accept other people's religions and be like, oh, that's great, that's your faith, and blah 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 blah. But then there's other people that are very like, no, you are wrong,
Right.
And it'd be interesting to see that in a book as well, how how different religions interact.
Right. And this is what I was talking about before with, like, if you're just going to throw it in as just a minor thing, it's almost not even worth it, because like this whole conversation that we've had about it, this makes for great fiction. Like, this is all plot fodder just right here, and you can just dive into this with characters. And I think that's really what you should, if you're going to use religion, use it for like stuff like this, like explore it and explore, having different stuff happen. It's just,
and don't be afraid to explore the bad parts of it too.
Totally.
Right.
My favorite.
Yeah, I agree.
My favorite exploration of spirituality, I'm going to lay this down right now, favorite exploration of spirituality in any book ever is the Ender series. And Jane, throughout that series, is just fantastic. She's an AI that achieves sentience, and just that whole, it's better explained than I've ever seen it done, whether it's Asimov or even Robot Proletariat, although Robot Proletariat explores spirituality in a really awesome way as well. But the Ender series kills it, knocks it out of the park. It's freaking awesome. So definitely check that out. We are way over time.
Do a second video or second hangout about the, yes, there we go.
Cool.
About the subject.
We'll do that next week. That's my topic. Yes!
Cheater! No, but I'm not going to be here next week. So
okay, that's fine. But I'll come in with a new, fresh perspective and take on it and everything like that. But we are definitely like way over time, and I still haven't eaten dinner because I didn't get to.
What, food? What?
I know, right?
Writers don't eat. We live off the blood, sweat, and tears of our work.
And coffee. And
coffee.
And lots of coffee.
I don't drink coffee.
Okay.
That's what's wrong.
So there you go. Hope everybody watching, and listening found this this little story illuminating. We will end off here. And I think that the most important thing is if you do religion in your story and you are intending to make a statement with it, if you're saying one thing or another about a religion or something like that, try to be respectful, because you just don't want to invite that kind of hate. I know, it's like very popular to make
Unless you
statements about.
want to be hateful.
Yeah, unless you're Tucker Max. But like, if you get out there and you make like a blatant, thinly veiled statement on, say, the Catholic Church, but even in a fantasy setting or a sci-fi where you try and like disguise it all and everything. I mean, here's the thing: even if you write religion, somebody somewhere will probably see an interpretation that's attacking their own religion and attack you for it. Don't make that worse by doing it intentionally and just like being a real jerk about it. I think I have a wife lurking outside my door. So anyway, with that, we will end off this podcast. Thank you for watching and listening. If you are listening on the audio feed, you will be hearing this in little more than a week from now, and we're sorry we've been gone. This has been the Storytelling Podcast. I'm Garrett Robinson. You can find me at garrettbrobinson.com. Zach is on Twitter at zzbolger. Scott is at theshroudbetween.com, and Chrissy Moss is at chrissymoss.com. We'll see you next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Pacific Time. Good night.
I see you.
Baby. Baby mama.
Baby.